My parents, they drove me to school. They sacrificed a lot to get me to school every single day. And I played for Tom Splain. I don't know if many of you guys know who that is, but legendary coach in the Montgomery County area on the women's side. And so we were able to bring multiple championships to Good Counsel in the WCAC. And so I really enjoyed my time there. And then out of high school, I went on to Penn State. So I started off there and played for Coquise Washington, Black African-American head coach. And so our first year, we actually won the Big Ten. So at that time, it was, Ohio State, Penn State. That was kind of the back and forth in the Big Ten on the women's side. And then I played 3 years there, graduated, chose to grad transfer to South Carolina, which was, one of the best decisions I've ever made. Coach Staley, still to this day, she's like, you should have came earlier, you should have came out of high school, but, everything happens for a reason. So I'm super grateful for that opportunity to go there and play under her alongside some amazing teammates. So to rewind a little bit, when he asked me to speak on the topic of championship culture, development, and lessons from all of these different elite programs. And so for me, there's a lot of constants throughout these programs. And so the nice thing, when I was looking back on my own journey, I realized that I actually, have been very successful at each place that I've been. In high school, we won WCAC championship. At Penn State, we won a Big Ten championship. South Carolina, we won an SEC championship, went to the Elite Eight. And then once I got out of playing, I was able to kind of slide over. And so Coach Staley gave me kind of my first opportunity of she asked me, she was like, what do you want to do? And at the time I was like, I don't really know, but I know I want to finish and get my master's. So I was able to get my master's in sport and entertainment management at South Carolina while I was a grad assistant for the team, which was an unbelievable experience just from an education standpoint, and learning a lot of the ins and outs and everything that actually happens around, the college space. Different people don't know just in other departments and all the things that are intertwined when you're dealing with college athletics. It's a lot. It is definitely a lot. So I'm really grateful for some of that time there. And then after I finished and I graduated, Brenda Freeze called me. And so I've known her through the recruiting process, growing up in this area. I'm on and off campus, summertime, you hooping with everybody at the local schools, you come back home, all of that. So it was very familiar for me. And she was like, well, what do you want to really coach, or do you want to figure it out? Do you want to be support staff? Do you want to, what do you want to do? And at the time, I didn't have a concrete answer for her. And she was cool with that. She was like, well, I'll let you figure it out. Like, what do you want to do? So at the time, I went into a role of player development and director of recruiting. So it was kind of a combined role to where you assisted our recruiting coordinator at the time, who was Karen Blair. She's now the head coach at Georgia Tech for women's basketball. And then just very hands-on on the court, doing a lot of different stuff, development-wise, still watching film, individual stuff, breakdowns with players. So I kind of got to put, my hands in a lot of baskets when I got to Maryland. And so after that first year, we had a couple changes on staff, and she actually moved me up to an assistant coach. So at the time, I'm young, I'm 24, right? She's making me an assistant coach at the University of Maryland. And she's won a national championship. She's won in the ACC. She's won in the Big Ten. Like, this is a future Hall of Fame coach, just as much as Coach Staley was, right? So she's giving me this opportunity. And I'm like, can I do this? Like, am I qualified to do this? Am I, what I'm in a space? So I don't think I've ever actually told anybody this, but I called Coach Staley, and she was like, or I was like, what do I need to do? And the biggest thing that I would say that I took away from her and just being in her space for those 2 years is like, as a young woman, as a young person in general, and even for us as everybody is, navigating different professions within sport, is being confident using your voice. So as a young woman, like that's what makes my job so rewarding, because when I see young people that are able to advocate for themselves or hold their teammates accountable, can empathize in certain situations and understanding, different backgrounds and different people and all of those things. She was like, do what you feel is right. She was like, every single moment that, when I was with her, she's, everybody looks at Coach Staley, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever met her or know her personally, but how she is perceived, like how y'all see her, that's her. She gonna be who she is. She's probably the realest person that ever been around. But she always talks about being a dream merchant for other people. So she always is putting other people first. But I think the biggest thing that I've taken away from my experience with her also is how she fosters an environment for everybody to be their best self. So not only for the job that you're trying to do, but like she wants you to get it right for you. She's not, asking you to do all these things just because it makes the program right. She's putting you in situations to where she's like, no, you got to figure it out. You figure it out. She's going to give you a job, figure it out, let me know. And it got to be done. Don Stanley asking you to do something, you got to figure that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to figure it out. And she does that intentionally to challenge you. And so with all of us, even when I was a player, like, she's so intentional about putting you in very difficult, hard situations. So that, once it gets to real life, and she teaches you all of those transferable skills that, like, when life get hard, it's like, I've been here before, I've been in this shit before, I've been in the ground before, and you're prepared for that. So then when I got a, full-time job, I'm an assistant coach at the University of Maryland, like, I was very grateful because Brenda also was super inclusive with our entire staff, which is not usually the case for a lot of you guys that have been, coached at multiple levels, regardless of what it is. You got a head coach asking a first year, straight out of being a grad assistant, what I think about what she's doing with her program. So for me, I'm like, shit, what do I think, But because of the, confidence that Coach Staley just pours into people, I was able to speak up, just not as a young woman ready for this point, but like everything that I had been through was like easy. It was easy for me because as soon I was like, well, I think we should do this, or I think we should do that, or whether we talk about offense, whether we talk about defense, whether we talk about recruiting specifically, she's allowing me to put my stamp on that. So I'm super confident in that. And throughout my years, I'm now about to go on year 7 at Maryland. I'm now the assistant coach, recruiting coordinator. I deal with all of our rev share. I deal with our general manager that oversees all of that. And I deal with our NIL, right? So our director of NIL and our Maryland collective. And so for me, I was very intentional about asking questions. So like, I know some people, and I don't know, this is from a woman's standpoint, but like, some people get very uncomfortable asking people of authority, like, to be in their space, right? And so for me, I was like, at some point, I might want to get there. I might want to be a GM. I might want to, slide over and work more on the admin side of things in the athletic department and all of that. And so because of how confident Coach Staley presents herself and just all of the different things that she's, like I said, I go back to her all the time, but she says, like, the disciplined person can do anything. And I don't know if any of you guys have read her book. She talks about favor. She talks about the consistencies of doing the little things and the details. And it sounds cliche, but like everything that she's done in her life, she always goes back to those little things. And that's like waking up every day, whether that's routine. People get so bored in the mundane. And she always tells, she's like, you got to do that every day, so that you're able to, you know, take yourself to a next level and you're prepared for the opportunity that hasn't even presented itself yet. And so I think that a lot of what I'm able to do now, I mean, I like to consider myself very versatile. Like I literally can do, if I want to become a head coach, I could be a head coach. If I wanted to be a GM, I could be a GM. If I wanted to be an AD, I could be an AD. If I wanted to be a high-level assistant coach or an associate head coach for the rest of my life, I could do that too. But I've had my hand in a lot of different things over the years, which is why I appreciate, you know, both of them. But it goes back to the people. Because basketball and sports in general, we all know, like, sports bring people together all the time. So it's really that working environment. And so when you take care of people, they take care of you. Then people gonna go hard for you in anything that you do. Like, I could call Coach Staley right now, and if she don't answer, she gonna text me back in probably 10 to 30 minutes. And she knows that, one, like, she's always going to be there for any one of her players or any one of her staff, but she puts you on a pedestal so that you're prepared for so many opportunities to come later. And Brenda does the same thing. She doesn't micromanage you. And so for me, that's super comforting. But you always, like, you want to be in a place to where you're working for people that are looking out for you and they're taking care of you. And if you go and you say, hey, I want to, you know, there's something in California that I want to do that may cost whatever, and your boss says you can't do that, we're not going to pay for it. I don't know how I feel about working for that boss. I'm not going to lie to you, because that's your development and that's your own personal growth. So why would they have somebody on their staff that they're not willing to pour into, or that if you're interested in something, they should want you to be interested in that. They should want you to come back better so that you can also be better for yourself, but be better for them and be better for the program. So that just goes back to, like, who you are working for. And so I just think high-level people are always invested in the people, and it's just the game of basketball is a people, you know, sport, like networking and all of this and everything that's going on. Like, if it wasn't for me coming up in the recruiting process and always speaking, because I take this story back, I talked to Brenda Freeze at a Final Four back when I had just finished my master's. So I was still at South Carolina. I did my grad assistant year with Coach Staley, and I had seen her at a networking event. And I just went up to her and I was like, hey, how are things? Like, how are you doing? Congratulations on the year, all that. Simple, right? But you never know who you're gonna meet on this path, because 3 months later, she called me and offered me that job. And I literally just, out of the kindness of my heart, was like, hey, what's up, coach? How you doing? At the Final Four, right? So you never know who you're going to meet, but you always want to be prepared for those opportunities, whether they presented themselves yet or not. And so I always tell young people to go up and speak, go up and introduce yourself, go up and, you know, let people know what you're interested in, because they could call you in 2 months and be like, hey, I actually got an opening, or we need an intern, or, you know, we need somebody who's willing to assist in that, or somebody that has this expertise. And you like, I do it, you know, just off the simple strength that you went up and you introduced yourself and you had a conversation with these people. And so I think just playing for 2 black women, that's not common, especially in my position. So I never take that for granted. I mean, we all in here black minorities, right? And so for me, I always wanted to be somebody that, like, our players looked up to from a representation standpoint, because I knew what the game gave to me, especially at a young age. And And for me, like I said, to be able to play for a black head coach at Penn State, be successful, play for black head coach, Hall of Famer, Don Staley, be successful. Like, for me, I'm like, the sky's, I can do anything I want. But because I had those people that cared so much about people and investing in them, like, I've been able to be successful. And I've been at Maryland so long because she's given me the flexibility to use my voice. And now I'm speaking in rooms. We just lost our associate head coach, but she's like, yo, I need you in this meeting. I need you talking to that. Like, she's putting me in situations to where I'm prepared. But that's because, early on, I was like, I'm interested in this, I'm interested in this. And now she's taking that and she's listening. So I really think it's important, too, for, who you're working for. Who you're working for is very, very important. I don't care what anybody says, because that whole networking and all it takes is, one person to make one phone call, and you could be hired on a level you might not even be qualified for, but because they know that you good people, or they know that you did this and that for this person, then, like, they're going to put you on just off strength. Now, they could mentor you and all of those things, but, like, you can get jobs just off strength of being a person of integrity. Like, that's the one thing, too. Coach Staley, she don't break no rules. Because she knows that a black woman, that's the first thing people coming after. They trying to figure out what you did to get to where you at. You know what I'm saying? She does not break rules. She goes about things the right way, and I admire her for that, because she knows, like, everybody out to get you. They always trying to find something wrong with what you're doing, right? So you have to carry yourself a certain way. But she's very outspoken. Y'all see her on social media. Y'all see her on TV. Like, she also don't care. She don't care. She don't care what nobody think about her, because she knows that at the end of the day, she's doing what God put her on this earth to do. And so for her, she always reaches back out. And I told her, literally this past summer, I was like, I think I kind of like, this rev share stuff and money and, dealing with all of that, and cap management and salary cap. She said, I got you. I'm gonna make a phone call, and I'm gonna have her call you. The lady called me in 2 days. Just from me, like, put myself out there. She could have been, you got coaches sometimes, they're like, yeah, I got you. You don't hear from them for a month. Right? But, like, for me, I aspire to be that, and I'm very grateful that I've been around that. But that's the biggest thing, is, like, put yourself out there. Like, don't be afraid to, shake somebody's hand or wait till the last minute and they got a whole line of people waiting to talk to them. Like, be the last person to go and introduce yourself. Be the last person to tell them your story or tell them something about you that they might be able to connect with. You never know who knows who. Because in this profession, like, I know probably 5 of the guys y'all talked to this morning because I grew up here or I worked out with them. Like, literally, he's like my brother is best friends with Tyler Thorin. Keith Veeney, I used to work out with him when I was 13 years old, since I was 13 years old. Fat Cat trained my best friend who played basketball, one of the all-time leading scorers on the women's side at Richmond. So it's just like all of these people, like, we're so connected. And I always tell people, like, don't be afraid to put somebody else on. Like, that's the biggest thing for me. Like, I don't mind if, I'm going to use Jay as an example because I see him around a lot. But, like, if he comes to me and is like, yo, I got a kid that I might make it to this level on the men's side. Like, do you know anybody I can hook him up with? And this is on the basic level because, he does his thing. He's gotten himself to this point. But, like, I'm going to the men's staff and I'm being like, yo, I got a coach that hit me up that wants to know if his kids, boom, boom, boom. But because now I have the rapport with the men's staff, they're going to look into it off strength. You know what I'm saying? So it's like those little things that I feel like are super important throughout this process of just networking and getting to know people. And that really just takes you through this profession, and that people, it goes quick. You look up, like, that's what I'm saying. I never would have thought 7 years ago that I'd be, assistant coach, recruiting coordinator, handling all of the things, because the game is changing, right? We getting older and these kids are staying the same age, but the game is changing. So it's like, you got to be adaptable, right? But at the end of the day, like, you got to be there for these kids. Like, if you're going to be in this profession, it's a selfless job. It's a selfless job. You don't get a lot of sleep. You up late. But I think, that mentorship piece for me is why I'm also still in it, because I want to see these kids be successful. And you know, over the last couple years, the most exciting thing for me is when I get to go to the WNBA draft, because I got our kids thanking me and are like, "Are y'all coming? You coming? Like, you coming to the draft? You gonna be there?" But like, I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? I don't need that satisfaction at all. But for me to have been able to impact them that much, that they tell you thank you, they call you after, like, that's bigger than all the other stuff you just did with them for the last 4 years. Because now they counting on you for the rest of their life. Not counting on you, but like, they're reaching back out to you. I got a young lady, Diamond Miller. She was the number 2 overall draft pick, WNBA draft 2 years ago. And she calling me, and she like, you know, Coach not playing me, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, she said, yo, I need you to get my mind back right. I need you to get my mind right. So when you have kids that, you know, trust you that much because of how much you've poured into them, just, they calling you. They ain't calling, you know, trainer they might have grown up with or whatever, but like, that's the biggest thing, you know, the happiest thing for me, that fortunately for these last, probably this year too, we might have 2 more WNBA draft picks, but like, that's the biggest thing for me. When these kids come in their freshman year and they're like, hey, I want to make it to the W, or hey, I want to start my own business, or hey, I want to do this, and then they do that and reach back out to you and they're like, thank you for everything. Like, that gives me a little soft spot in my heart, because like, I ain't doing it for nothing. I want you to be successful, but I don't need you to, don't, you know, put me on the spot, thank me, but like, that's why I'm in it, for them to be able to get to the highest level they want to get to. Whatever you want to do, I want to help you get there. And I feel like I got a lot of that from Coach Daly. Like, she's always reached back out. She's like, yo, you good? Yo, your son good? Your family good? Your husband good? Like, she's always reaching back out, and I think that's super important. Male, female, don't matter. If you're in this business, it's bigger than you. The sport is bigger than you, always. You know what I'm saying? So if you're in it for selfish reasons, I tell you, you probably want to find something else to do, because it's a lot of, you know, thankless nights and long days, and, you know, I just came off an official visit literally 2 hours ago, and I want to be here to obviously speak to y'all, but like, that's the nature of the job, right? And so I think too, for me, I'm very fortunate. I know sometimes the men's side is a little different, but also Brenda Freeze, she's coached 23 WNBA draft picks in her 24 years at Maryland. That ain't common. Exactly. That's basically, you do the math, that's about 1 draft pick a year, right? And so for me to be a part of that, I see how she balances her life and her kids, and like the sacrifice that she's made to really get to this point. But like the standard that she holds amongst all of our players and their families and everything, like, we have players that come back all of the time. You don't see that at programs all the time. Like, we have players that come back, are in practice with our kids. Alyssa Thomas, that's on the MVP talks right now, will come back, talk to our kids, text them during the season, how y'all doing, this and that. But that comes from a culture that she's built. Like, that ain't, everything ain't like that. Every program ain't like that. And so, you know, I really value that, because, you know, when I get an opportunity, if and when I get an opportunity to become a head coach, the culture is the biggest thing, and the people make the culture. So you got to have people that are, you know, obviously driven and disciplined, but you got to have people that got your back. You got to have some people that's going to ride with you, even when that shit get ugly. You got to have people that's really on the same page, and you got to have people that's going to call you out. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of head coaches, they can be very uncomfortable with it when, you know, you either, you're not disrespectful, but they can be very uncomfortable when you put yourself out there in front of them. You don't ever want to, you know, undermine them in front of people. But I think it's important that you have, that's why you're an assistant, or that's why you're support staff or whatever. Like, you are there to advise as much as you can, and they can take that and do what they want with it because it's their program. You're an assistant. But it's your job to always give them that, and don't stop giving them that. Just because they don't listen to you the first time, don't listen to you the second time. The third time might come around and they still not working, But if you shut off, you don't help nobody. You don't help yourself. You don't help them. You don't help the program. But that's why you got to keep going, keep putting yourself out there, because there's going to be a time to when it breaks through. Like, it's going to break through. Because at the end of the day, like, you can't do anything in this profession without other people. So at the end of the day, they see something in you. And I know I've talked to, different men's coaches. They're like, yeah, they pigeonhole me. They put me in a box and they da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, it's your job to get out the box. Get out the box. Figure out how to get out the box. I don't care if that means you're now, they put you on as your offensive specialist and you don't know nothing about defense. Don't talk to me about defense. Don't da-da-da-da. Nah, because at the end of the day, if the defense is shit, if the defense is shit, and they like, what are we going to do? Somebody got to step up and say something. If whoever's your defensive guy or defensive girl or whatever it is, somebody got to speak up. So don't ever let them first couple times, dim your light. Like, at the end of the day, you're there for a reason, and you are put in this position for a reason. So when I want to tell, everybody in here, regardless of what level you at, like, put yourself out there, speak up confidently on all different things. As versatile as you can be, the better. Because at any given time, there might be a need, or somebody gets fired, somebody leaves, and they just need somebody to fill in quick. They don't have time to go through a whole search. They don't have time to go through it. You got to be ready. Like, when I got my opportunity, I was in emergency hire in the middle of COVID. And now I'm the top person. She calling about this, and she calling about that. And I love it, right? Because I put you got to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of that opportunity, and always be willing to speak up. Whether that's standing on what you believe in. Because we've had conversations to where, sometimes the head coach is like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. Or she's this, or she's that. And it's like, nah, this is actually what she's thinking, because she told me exactly what happened. So don't be afraid to advocate for your players too, because head coaches, it's not always their fault, but they're very tunnel vision with certain things. Or whether, they get locked into certain things after seeing it for so many times. But like, you have to be the one as an assistant to really keep them level, keep them level-headed, keep them open-minded to different things. Because you're dealing with young men, you're dealing with young women that are going through a whole bunch of different things. And the head coach, that might go over their head. They're not worried about that. But it's your job to make sure that they address it, or they do what's needed so that student athlete can be their best self for the program, for whatever it is. Sometimes I've had to tell my head coach, hey, yo, you need to call her mom. You need to call her dad, just to see what the best way is to help them. Not to be like, yo, your kid is doing this, your kid does that. Like, how can I help your child be better? Right? And sometimes those are uncomfortable conversations, because it might be a kid that's not playing, that should be playing, or you thought they'd be playing or getting more minutes, but they struggling with this and struggling with that. But you like, I don't know what's wrong with him. You write them off. No, it's my job to figure out what's wrong with them, figure out how to fix it so that they can be their best self. Because sometimes, head coaches, they focus on everything else. They got so many different things going on. So I think just as an assistant, that's one of the biggest things too that I've been able to take. And I could talk to y'all for, long time about a lot of different stuff, but I'll kind of open it up to questions about anything that I do or anything that I've, been in, situations, rooms, people, all of that, for anybody that has anything. What's up, Jay?
All the teams that you've been around that have won. I can't hear you. All the teams you've been around that have won, what's been the consistent thing? 1 or 2 consistent things.
They've, one, communicated at a really high level, on and off the court, and they hold each other accountable. They are not scared to say the hard things or do the hard things.
Is that staff included?
Yes. And that goes back to my point, like, I could be very uncomfortable about to say something to my head, but I got to say that shit for us to move past these next 2 games, because if I don't say it, she don't address it, or I feel something within the team, she don't address it, we down 2 more games. We 0-2, 0-3 the next week. You know what I'm saying? So I think the communication at a high level and then them holding each other accountable, because you got to have, you know, you want as a head coach to have more player-led teams, but that starts with the environment that you foster. So if you're not calling them out on certain things, then they not comfortable calling each other out on certain things. You ain't say nothing to her, so she did that. That's the same. I mean, boys probably the same way. You ain't say nothing to him, so I can do what I want. You ain't say nothing to her, so she acting like this, and I can, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's probably the biggest thing, because it's really nice to see, because a couple years ago we had a team that led the nation in scoring. We were averaging about 93 points a game. Okay, and there got to a point to where we would sit back and let them rock out. Like, we was like, oh, they got it. But they were correcting each other. They were constructively critiquing each other. Of what did coach just tell you to do? Like, you know what I'm saying? So they getting on each other, and I think that's really that. But that also goes back to culture. Like, you set that standard as a head coach, and it's a trickle-down effect. It's a trickle down in your support staff. It's a trickle down in your players. It's a trickle down to the managers. It's all, you know, it's everybody. So I think that's one of the biggest things. Hold on. Oh.
And being around both Coach Shelley and Coach Freeze, both of whom have built those championship teams and cultures, what is the one thing in common between those two women? Different programs, different philosophies, but what is the one thing that you have experienced that they have in common in building those championship cultures?
They work like the work at they both grind. They're gonna figure it out, but there's always purpose with everything they do. There's a purpose, and they know what that purpose is. You got to know what that purpose is, because if you working aimlessly and don't really know where you're going or don't really know where you're trying to get, there's a purpose behind everything that they do. And both programs, I didn't really get into this, but both programs are very different. They're led very, very different. But they both are very purposeful with what they do, why they do it, and they're gonna make sure that you understand why you're doing what you're doing. And if you don't, somebody gonna tell you, whether you like it or not.
You have a question? Oh, you raise your hand. I thought you doing
He picking his
the
head.
hair twist thing. That's a new thing now. Well, I want to say, please, let's give Lindsey a round of applause. You know, when I opened up, and I kind of gave you a lot of props, and I was saying, first I said a rising star, and I said, no, she's not a rising star. She is a star. So we're expecting big things from you, and I really appreciate you coming out to share your story and share your knowledge and experience, and helping us kick off the inaugural year of the 22. All right? Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day. Say thank you.